es la presentación del libro de Bill Aulet, y la va a moderar Heberto Taracena. Déjenme presentarles a nuestros invitados, por favor. Bill, do you mind if I speak in Spanish for to introduce you? I hope he doesn't mind. It's okay. Bill Aulet es director administrativo del Centro Martin Trust for MIT Entrepreneurship en el MIT, obviamente. También es docente en el MIT Sloan School of Management. El centro que dirige Bill es responsable del emprendimiento en las 5 escuelas del MIT, abarcando distintos campos de educación, clubes estudiantiles, conferencias, competencias, entrega de premios y aceleradores. Bill también en 2003 fue reclutado como el CFO en una empresa que se llama Visage Technology. Es una compañía de tecnología relacionada con las áreas de licencias de conducir y reconocimiento facial. La empresa aprovechó sus habilidades para desarrollar nuevas estrategias, aumentar sus adquisiciones e incrementar su valor en el mercado. Además, Bill ha implementado diversos programas innovadores, incluyendo el MIT Clean Energy Prize, Energy Venture Class. Ha hecho también pues, festivales relacionados con el emprendedurismo. Además de su trabajo en el MIT, Bill trabaja por separado con individuos y empresas para ayudarlos a cumplir sus objetivos emprendedores. También funge como asesor en juntas directivas de varias empresas. Es ingeniero de la Universidad de Harvard y tiene un máster en MIT. No tengan duda que Bill es una de las autoridades mundiales en cuanto a emprendedurismo, podemos decir. Lo va a presentar, va a moderar esta presentación del libro. Por cierto, el libro se llama La disciplina del emprendedor, 24 pasos para lanzar una startup exitosa. Este libro ya existe hoy en el idioma inglés y hoy es un gran evento y un honor para el ITAM que se venga a presentar el lanzamiento del libro en español. Si gustan ir pasando, Bill, please, can you come here, and Heberto, please. Heberto es de Tabasco. Él es un exalumno del ITAM, es licenciado en Economía. En el año 94 fue becado Fulbright y Fort Hewlett MacArthur y estudió la maestría de Políticas Públicas en la Universidad de Harvard. En su vida profesional, Heberto Taracena ha sido consultor en el Banco Mundial en la ciudad de Washington y fue asociado en la empresa de consultoría McKinsey. Ha sido profesor del curso de evaluación de políticas públicas en el Colegio de México y en el ITAM. Heberto es uno de los emprendedores mexicanos más exitosos y con mayor experiencia, y así ha sido reconocido. Heberto fundó también una empresa en 2009 que se llama Invent. Es una empresa de medios digitales y hoy es la segunda más importante del sector en México. Invent incrementó su capital en el año 2011 con la entrada como inversionista del Grupo Imagen Multimedia, que es la tercera empresa de medios en México. En paralelo a sus actividades privadas, Heberto en el 2003 fue seleccionado como uno de los 20 emprendedores del año por la revista de negocios Expansión, y en el año 2005 fue considerado como uno de los 10 emprendedores del futuro por la revista Suplemento Semanal del periódico El Universal. Desde el 2004, Heberto es miembro de la Red de Emprendedores Endeavor y dedica parte de su tiempo a la promoción del desarrollo de una cultura emprendedora entre la juventud en México. Yo les pido un aplauso para nuestros invitados. Bueno.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Igor. And it's really nice to be back. I was here, I think, 1 year ago, opening up the Epic Lab. Was it 1 year ago? Was it a year and a half ago? And so it's really nice. It's great to be back. First of all, it's comfortable in the sense that there's a lot of people that I know here now quite well. Danielle and Victor, it's been great working with you over this time. We have people who've taken the online class like Matteo here. And look at this. We've got our team from GFSA. We have, where's Victor? Victor from Veracruz. So I know a lot of people here. The thing that makes me really uncomfortable is I only have a certain number of jokes, and I tend to reuse them over and over again. So you may hear the same jokes you heard the last time I was here. So look, what I want to talk about, I'm not going to go through all the things that I went through before. There's online classes. There's a lot of lectures you can find. You can pick up the book. You can look at the posters that are going to be there. I'm just going to say why I kind of wrote the book. And then I want to talk about why I think it's so important to me that today is such an important day for me that the book is coming out in Spanish, because it really is very important for me in that regard. So if you have any questions, just tweet me at this, because I like questions that are 140 characters or less. I can respond quickly to those. And if I don't respond to them here today, then I'll respond to them before I leave. I get on the plane and go. So you will get a response. All right, so what is disciplined entrepreneurship? So that's reverse, that's forward. So entrepreneurship is this very, very popular thing. It's now everywhere. Everywhere you go, entrepreneurship, people are talking about it. But do they really understand what entrepreneurship is? It's kind of like innovation. Everyone talks about innovation, but what is innovation? Do they really know what it is? And this is troubling to me, kind of being an engineer, is I don't like stuff that I don't really understand what we're talking about. I'm not a liberal arts person or an economist. I had to get another shot in there, an economist, right? I've talked about this, and we talk about at the beginning of the book, is there's two types of entrepreneurship. And while entrepreneurs are people who create new ventures where there was no venture before, which, by the way, I've modified that definition a little bit over time, is you can start a new venture and it could be a SME. And by an SME, this is a very good thing. It's a new company that services, a local demand. It's a tapas bar, it's an IT services company, it's a nail salon. But that just services your local economy, your local markets. And these are very good. They're good for the economy, and we believe in them. But they're different than what we're really focused on at MIT is IDE, which is innovation-driven innovation-driven enterprise entrepreneurship. By this, I mean you're going to build a product, and then you're going to ship that to people in your local market, but you also ship it to people globally, or at least super regionally. And it turns out that these, you want both of them in yours, but the one on the right is what's really driving economic development and growth right now. This is where the jobs are being created. I have 4 sons, and they get trained to do different things, but they're friends, and they talk about getting jobs in innovation-driven startups. And this is where the new jobs in the economy are coming from. So it behooves us to understand what do we need to do is there a pointer on this? Yes. What can we do to help stimulate more of these? And at places like MIT and ITAM, this is what we think we should be doing. This over here, this is great, but teams here of people in the classroom, we should be teaching how to do innovation-driven enterprise entrepreneurship. And it's something that takes a while, and it's a different skill set, but it certainly can be taught. There's no doubt in our mind the data shows you can teach people how to be good entrepreneurs. So we know why it can be taught. Well, you said it can be taught. How do you know it can be taught? What's this data you have? The data shows that the first time you're an entrepreneur, your odds are much less than the second time you're an entrepreneur, and the third time they're higher than the second time. So you learn something when being an entrepreneur, and this is what we need to bring into our academic environments. And I didn't say classroom, because classrooms is only one part of teaching it. You need things like epic labs, you need competitions, you need hackathons, you need going out and doing internships. All these things are part of a holistic education that we need to use. But you can teach it, that's what the data shows. The question is, how do you teach it? How do you teach it? And a lot of what's being done today is what I would call less than rigorous entrepreneurship. It's telling a bunch of stories about it. And you say, well, that's not a big deal because we've got a good program here at ITAM going. Where's Fernando? Did he leave? Yes. He teaches rigorous entrepreneurship. But that's not available to a lot of people out there. And the demand is skyrocketing here such that over 2,000 universities and colleges in the United States teach entrepreneurship. Yet there's not nearly enough people to teach that. It's not easy to teach entrepreneurship. It certainly wasn't 2 years ago. There isn't a body of knowledge. Every situation's different. It's not like teaching Java. If we teach you Java, Java's the same no matter what you do. Whether you're doing a medical device or an embedded system, whether you're doing an energy company, whether you're doing an app, it does not matter. However, in entrepreneurship, those things different. Entrepreneurship, it matters the context that you do it. So, and there isn't a big body of knowledge out there about it. So what's happened is a lot of this has turned into storytelling. And that's what's filled this. Now, storytelling is not all bad because it helps you with the spirit. And getting the spirit for entrepreneurship is really important. That's what I talked about before is, we talk about having the spirit of a pirate. You have to be willing to be different to be an entrepreneur. And this is what makes it fun. If you're a conformist and you just want to do what everybody else is doing, you're not going to be a great entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the one, as we talk about, if all the fish are swimming this way, do you get excited about swimming the other way? Would you come on a stage with a bunch of very well-dressed people like we see here and wear socks like this? That's being a pirate. That's being a pirate. Although, Igor, you had some pretty funky socks right there. I did notice that. But I wouldn't call a government employee a pirate yet. Maybe. So you got to have this spirit, and that's what you can get out of the lessons, and that's what you get out of these stories. But once you get the stories, what do you do then? I'm excited. I want to be an entrepreneur. This is great stuff. This is where the future's going. Entrepreneurs have fun. Well, you need to get a set of skills to go with it, and that's what disciplined entrepreneurship is all about. Is whenever you look at a great entrepreneur, you might think that they're just kind of a wild pirate and they're not disciplined. That is absolutely not true. Think of any successful entrepreneur. Just go watch them. Watch the discipline that Steve Jobs has. Watch Zuckerberg. Watch any of the people. They're very, very disciplined about what they do. The question is, what is the process that they're going through? So, what we believe is that entrepreneurship should be open. It should be seen as a profession, not one person dictating what entrepreneurship is. And this is one of the reasons why everything we do is open source. You can go onto edX, you can see our classes. Everything that we're putting in here pulls from different places. And we're hoping, this was an interview I just had this morning, they said, what's your next book? My hope is that you all will contribute to that, and many other places around the world will contribute to build a body of knowledge about entrepreneurship that exceeds what any one person can do, that any one institution can do. And that's really important. If we're going to make this a real profession, a discipline, it's got to be everybody contributing to it. But we need a common language, and that's what this disciplined entrepreneurship. What's a total addressable market? What's a beachhead market? What do we mean by market segmentation? What do we mean by cost of customer acquisition? What do we mean by lifetime value? All that stuff is defined as to what it is. Again, engineering mentality, define your terms. And that's what this starts out to do. Common language. So now we can start building up knowledge amongst all of us. And so when you're talking about it, the problem with entrepreneurship in the past has been this kind of faddish thing. What's the newest fad? Well, it's pivoting. Let's talk about pivoting. What is pivoting? How does that fit into a larger whole? And this is the problem that's gone on and on. So now we're building kind of a comprehensive systems approach with a common language that pulls in the best tools, and then it's validated. There is certainly a role for academics, and there's certainly a role for practitioners here, and they have to work together in this. If you just have practitioners, they don't get at the underlying data. Is this really true? Is it not? But when we work with just academics, we don't get the practicality of what happens on the ground. So with that, so what is it? Disciplined entrepreneurship, think of you're building a house. What would you do? You would go out, you would get a toolbox, and you would fill that toolbox with different tools. It's crazy to think that any one tool would be sufficient. And so what we've done for this, entrepreneurship, building a venture, is much more complicated than building a house. It is, so why do we think that there's one tool that can do the job? There isn't. There are many different places where you can get many different tools, and then they get validated by people who do rigorous analysis. That's these people down here. They're real intellectuals. And you go through, and then we pick the best tools and put them in a toolbox for you. So what does that toolbox look like? This is how we represent it, and it's 24 steps. And again, as I said last time, people said 24 is a lot of work. Can't we just do it in like 1 or 2 or 3? Can't you be like those consultants that put 3 bullets on a slide and we're done? No. 24 is a good approximation, I believe, of what it takes to get go from an idea to a product. Get the market map right. And it goes through this, and it's a winding path. It's not a straight line, and there are lots of iterations through it, because it's not an algorithm. This is a framework. And now, within it, you see many different colors. And by the way, people say, geez, we love the cartoons, especially in Mexico. You guys love cartoon characters, don't you? We're driving by the theater last night. I go, look at that. There's like a theater that's showing cartoons. They said, no, that's a regular theater. They just love cartoons here in Mexico. Can you explain that to me at some point? I don't quite get it. All right. So you have this kind of accessibility, which is very important, because what we didn't want is people used to, when I would go in and start to talk about it, people would glaze over and say, this is some complicated MIT crap. You know, we could never do this. And the idea here is to make it extremely accessible, but also keep the rigor. And that's what we've done here. So when you look at the first step here is, who is your customer? It doesn't start off with what's your product, give me the minimum viable product, let's pivot, let's do something. No, it starts off what has been proven to be the best way to start a company is to think about who is the customer. This goes to what's very popular now is design thinking. You have to have an idea to start the process, yes. But people who push ideas without understanding who the customer is end up failing more often than not. And I know this firsthand because that's what happened with my first company. And we ran into problems in the second company until we realized you got to build the company from the customer back. The single necessary and sufficient condition for a business is not a product. It's not an investor. It's not a business plan. It's a paying customer. And that's what business is about, is getting paying customers who think what you produce is valuable enough that they'll pay you for it. And now the question, there's some other questions that come after that, but it starts with who's your customer and then working your way back from there. So the next one we go into is what can you do for your customer? This is where you get into efficiently and effectively saying, all right, now that I know who the customer is through a methodical methodology, how do I figure out what we can do for them that they really care about? And again, every single step is easy to understand. There's examples. We define what it is. There are units for it. And it's not that hard to go through it. And this is actually fun. The first two phases are fun. Where it starts to get hard, those who have done it here know, is when we get to step 12 and 13. This is how does your customer acquire the product? And engineers in particular say they just buy it because it's better than anything else. It's a better mousetrap. They get value out of it. Why wouldn't they buy it? They're stupid if they don't buy it. Well, calling your customer stupid isn't a good strategy in business. What you need to do is understand who are the people making the decision-making unit, and then how do they make that decision-making process. Again, a lot of work's been out there, and we pull it together in a very efficient way so that you can understand how to do that in an entrepreneurial environment. And then after that, now we're starting to roll. If we do that, which is not easy, then we get into how do you make money off your product? Because there's a lot of things out there that customers want, but there's no business there to do it. So how is this a sustainable business in the sense that we can make the product and sell the product and get more money back than it costs us to make the product and do everything else associated with that product? And this is where you get into the math of what's the cost of customer acquisition versus the lifetime value of the customer. Perfect logical sense once you go through it and read it, and it shows you how to do that. But unfortunately, a lot of people get caught up in other superfluous things, and they don't get down to what are the fundamentals of starting a company, a new business. And then the second to last thing is how do you build the product in an efficient, effective way? And this gets into stuff that was done by Stefan Tomke at MIT and Harvard, using small experiments, which has now been popularized through the lean startup movement. And then the last thing is how do you scale the business? How do you take this beachhead market and then grow it? So that's a rapid fire path through what we're doing. I really, really like it because I've used it in classes and it scales really well. It scaled from when we had 20 people in our class, which I could just muscle through and do that, to the point where we had 200 in our class. And it's now scaled from those 200 in a class to 160,000 people taking it in every nation across the world, including many in this room. How many people have taken the online class here? So you see here, Mexico, by the way, is the #1 country for Spanish-speaking taking the online class. I just saw the data today, beating Spain itself. And it's not even in Spanish yet. It will be in Spanish, by the way, on April 11th. And I'm going to get back to that in a second. So, all right, which is a forward? That's a forward. Okay, so let me just go to why all this other stuff just gets into the details as to what it is. It works. There's the online class. So why is it so important for me to do Spanish? The publisher really wasn't keen on getting it out in Spanish. They said, why are you doing it in Spanish? Because actually, basically you'll make more money if it's in English than if it's in Spanish, because then they'll buy more the copies that are out there. That's not what this is about. Why is Spanish so important? Spanish is becoming a dominant language throughout the world. They're projected by the year 2030 that it will be the #2 native language spoken, native tongue for people in the world after Chinese. So entrepreneurship is about not getting the 1% and making them entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is giving everybody a chance. And I think we're going to talk about this in the fireside chat. It's about giving everybody a chance. Entrepreneurship is the ultimate meritocracy as far as I'm concerned. This is why I love it. I didn't grow up with that much. But I loved going down to the basketball park and playing basketball, pickup basketball. Because when you went down there, it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered is you got on that court and you won. Because if you won, you got to stay on the court. If you lost, you were off the court and everybody knew you lost and you might not get picked again for the rest of the day. And there was nothing else to do when I grew up. There was no. So you wanted to stay on that court. And so nobody cared whether you were black, white, yellow, green. Nobody cared. Nobody cared who your mommy and daddy were. Either you did the job on the court or you didn't. And if you didn't, nobody wanted you on their team. So it was a great meritocracy. Entrepreneurship is the same thing. That's what I love about it. Either you make the product, you get the right customers, you sell it, you build it, you hire the right people, or you don't. It's really simple. There's no kind of explaining around this in entrepreneurship. And this is really important to me because the great entrepreneurs most often come not from the very top. Well, Bill Gates was from the top, but Steve Jobs sure wasn't. Steve Jobs was an orphan. Syrian parents, out of wedlock. Those are the people who can change the world as well, and they deserve a chance to do that. And they're highly motivated to do that. And our society needs those people to do that. because we have intractable problems in healthcare, water, energy, environment, jobs, you name it. And we need more people like that. And those people today are sitting out there and they're not speaking English. In fact, they're not sitting here at ITAM. They're out there in many of those different countries, or maybe Mexico, and we need to give them a chance because it's not, they're going to upset us. They're going to help all of us. This isn't a zero-sum game. They're going to help society become better. And these young people deserve hope in their life. They deserve pride that they can own something. They deserve that if they have rigor in their life, they're going to get a payback. And so I am totally determined to get this book out to everybody we possibly can. And that's why getting it out in Spanish is so important to me. And the class is going to be released online for free on April 11th, totally in Spanish, a whole text and everything. Now that might not mean so much to you all here. Maybe it will help some of you. But that means that our world is going to be a better place as far as I'm concerned, because all these people are going to have access to that. And there'll be great people that you can work with to help change the world. So, I know I sound like an American preacher or something, like I'm a crazy person, but this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to make entrepreneurship a profession, not seen as some kind of crazy, magical thing. It's not. It's something that everybody can learn. And if we can give these young people, or even middle-aged people who don't have a hope today, that they can become an entrepreneur, then we're doing one hell of a good thing. So, you can be an entrepreneur, and you can help us help other people to become entrepreneurs too, and that's what we want to do. So with that, what we're trying to do is to keep people having the spirit of a pirate, but have the execution skills of a Navy SEAL. That's probably pretty aggressive coming down here, but you get the gist. So with that, I think we'll turn it, it's time for the, it's time to go to the questions and to the, I have plenty of slides here. All these slides are available, but just for sake of time, I'm not going to go through them. Okay, Heberto, am I supposed to introduce you? Okay. So, if you want to bypass the system, the distribution channel, just tweet to me and I'll pick up your question too.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, Bill. I was just talking to Daniela, and when we were bouncing the ideas of EPIC, we were talking that the idea is not to change students at ITAM. It's about changing the world. So we share your mission. It's a pleasure to have you here. So I have different questions in different sets of questions. Before I read your book, I was reading a book for kids. It's called No Drama Discipline. So it seems to me that there is like this tendency to link discipline to drama. No? That's probably why the idea of No Drama Discipline as a book for kids. So, when I read your book, and at the beginning I saw discipline entrepreneurship, the first idea that came to my mind was drama. No, why discipline? What are you highlighting when you obviously selected the word discipline for your book?
So the reason I selected discipline is because it's this combination. And when I said disciplined entrepreneurship to crowd, they were like, no, that's an oxymoron. That doesn't make sense. And so the first thing when you want to change people is you got to knock them out of their homeostasis. I can use words like that here, can I? You have to knock them out of their comfort zone,
yep,
and something new. And that's why a good tagline kind of throws people for a loop. So disciplined entrepreneurship was my way of saying, what you think about entrepreneurs is wrong. It's a dangerous myth to think that they're undisciplined. And the great entrepreneurship is about this question of skills and spirit, but you need both. And that's true of so many things in life. Life is about balance. It's not about one thing. It's about balance. How do you make the decision between one and the other? And that's why I liked it.
But it's something. It's like now that there is like this fever about becoming an entrepreneur, it seems to me that there is like a lot of fakish entrepreneurship. No, if you go to some neighborhoods in Mexico, if you go to Colonia Roma, you will see a guy dressing like a black shirt and jeans, and he pretends that he's an incomprehended Steve Jobs in Latin America. No,
yeah, this is called wanapreneurs, right?
Wanapreneurs, yeah.
By the way, I forgot to mention, one of the reasons why I chose disciplined entrepreneurship was because the domain name was available too.
Oh, that's a
joke, actually. That's a joke, everyone. It was.
I was almost crying with your story, and
but yeah, there's a lot of wanapreneurs, and this is one of the problems that we have, is that entrepreneurship has become too cool, and people want to be entrepreneurs, and they think it's easy. It's not easy. That's the one thing. It's, as I equate it, most of you in this room will not understand this now. You will one day. But entrepreneurship is like having a kid. If anyone ever told you how hard it is to have a kid, you would never have a kid. I mean, it is such a pain to have a kid. Mine, yeah. I mean, your friends are going out, you can't go out, and you're sitting there wiping some feces off the bottom of something. It's just, and then they cause all kind of problems for you.
They are disgusting, actually.
Yeah, it's so, we can't even begin to tell you how much work it is to be a parent and have kids. And if you knew, you would be petrified. So that's what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And you say, well, geez, that was really uplifting. Well, let me tell you, anyone who's had a kid will tell you they can't explain to you how rewarding it is to have a kid, usually.
Yeah.
That's a joke too, all right? But how rewarding it is to have a kid, and how you could never imagine life without a kid. All those sacrifices, you'd make them in a heartbeat again. And that's what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Like, when I first became an entrepreneur, I left IBM. So you got to understand, I left IBM in 1994, and I had 4 kids and a mortgage, and a wife who worked very, very hard but had no income. And it was seemingly insane. And first of all, nobody left IBM in 1994. It was like leaving the mafia. It was like they thought I had a breakdown. But this is what I wanted to do. And I don't regret that for a day. And IBM used to call me up and say, well, you ready to come back? Is everything okay? You got your medication?
Are you crazy? Like, why are you leaving? No, it's
yeah. And I don't regret it for a day.
Yeah.
Because and this is, I said it at the beginning, I define entrepreneurs as people who start companies. That's what I use, start new ventures. They could be in large companies. Today, what I define entrepreneurs as people who take control of their lives.
Yeah, but I mean, when I started here at ITAM, it was from 1990 to 1994, and ITAM was like a nest for bureaucrats.
You're much older than you look.
Really? You said the opposite just a couple of hours ago. But anyway, for me to become an entrepreneur was really painful. I had many doubts. So when I told my family that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, the first thing that they thought is that I was crazy or that I was becoming stupid. No, actually, one of my uncles said to me, "I knew that you were not so clever." No, like, so I was right. No, and usually, when you describe that you were so convinced to become an entrepreneur, I can imagine that there was like a deeper feeling. What was that feeling? Were you confused? What happened in those days? No.
So first of all, there's all this stuff like, you're born into an entrepreneurial family. I will assure you, my family was not entrepreneurial. My father worked every day, all the time, and he had to. We had 5 kids in our family, and he was not an entrepreneur. My mother was not an entrepreneur. There was no one in our family that was an entrepreneur except some crazy uncle that nobody associated with. But I didn't even know what the word was when I graduated from college. I had no idea what it was. I had no exposure to it. The time when I worked at IBM, I started to see the personal computer. And I started to see people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mitch Kapor. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. You can do that. And you can you can not only provide for your family, but you can do really cool stuff. You can have a company that's different. That's pretty cool. And then I didn't believe that I could do it. I really had no idea about it. And then I went back to MIT and did my graduate degree there. So this is the importance of institutions and ecosystems, because they give you the confidence to be able to do it.
Okay.
When you see other people doing it, then you say, I can do it too. And this is where I think things are going to take off very quickly for Mexico, because once you have role models, everything changes. Role models that you can associate with. I think I probably told the story when I was here before, but you know, I can give you many of them. But the one that was the clearest one that everybody understands is I was in Romania, and I was saying the importance of role models. I was telling them this kind of complicated story of role models at MIT, and they said, no, 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 we get it. I said, how do you get it so well? They said, because in Romania, there was once this person named Nadia Comaneci, and she became a terrific gymnast. And after she became a terrific gymnast, every young girl in Romania said, I can be like Nadia Comaneci. And then if you look after Nadia Comaneci, there was a surge of great young Romanian gymnasts, female gymnasts. And there was no change in the DNA. And the same thing happened when they said when Ilie Nastase became a successful tennis player, men became tennis players. And you see this in the Dominican Republic with baseball. You see it in Lithuania with basketball. You see it in sports. Why is it not true in? No,
definitely. And actually, at the beginning of your book, you mentioned that.
You've got a lot of questions there.
Like 125? Is that too much?
You really are an economist, aren't you?
A failed economist. You mentioned that MIT has, graduates from MIT have created more or less 30,000 companies. Yeah. And on revenue, they somehow, the revenue is about $3 trillion. You know, that's 3 times the GDP of Mexico. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, it would be the 11th biggest economy in the world with companies that come out of MIT. I mean, it's remarkable.
So I think one of the things that we have to do here at EPIC is to measure ourselves against the number that we have. I mean, how many entrepreneurs go out each year and coming from ITAM and they create companies? How many companies and how we can add up the revenue of those companies created by students from ITAM or previous students or graduate students from ITAM, and how much they do for our country. And that will be quite an excellent measure of our achievements. No? So I have questions about failures. So it seems to me that there is like this controversial idea of failure. So I heard in one of your posts in YouTube that failure is more about experimentation. No? It's about experimenting. It's about there to do things. But tell me about your failures.
Well, I've seen failures. I personally haven't failed myself.
Cool.
That's a complete joke,
Next
everyone.
Question. Next question. Okay.
I think just to be clear, I think I've failed more than anyone else in this room looking around here. I've lost my shareholders hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm not particularly proud of that, except that I've made them more than that back. And what matters at the end is when you're playing sports is not how many mistakes you made. You can give up 2 goals. As long as you score 3 goals, that's fine. So you can't be afraid of making mistakes or failing, because the surest way to make no mistakes and now fail, I guarantee you if you follow this strategy, you will not fail, is to do nothing. So the moment you say, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to do something innovative that's going to change the world and someone hasn't done before, you are going to fail in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Must. If you don't, you're not innovating, because otherwise you're just doing what somebody else. So, and this gets to the point of failure. Failure has to hurt in some way, but you need a community that picks you up afterwards. And it was interesting. We had this people who took the online course and then came to MIT, and Mateo was one of them. And they were all there, and they were part of this community. And this is what you're building with Epic Lab and Here Now, is that one of them said, Susan Klein, She had been a lawyer. She had been a teacher. She had been a gymnast. And she said for the first time when she came with this class and this group, she said, I found my people. Because I can be myself here. I can try to do what I want to do, and I can fail, and the group will help me. And so having a community of entrepreneurs allows you to fail and be supported, because everybody understands that's what this is about.
Okay.
That's the price for greatness.
Okay, now forget that I'm an economist and think that I'm a psychologist. So I want your deepest emotions when you were failing. I mean, what happened to you? What came to your mind? What did you feel? What happened with your family? What happened with your kids? I mean,
yeah.
What was the struggle?
So, yeah, it hurts. I mean, let me tell you, everyone says, oh, embrace failure. No, you don't want to embrace failure. I mean, it's just crazy. You want to accept failure as part of the process and know that it hurts. You know, I can say it now and you can be honest about it. And when something fails, that is a huge opportunity for you to learn. And you have to put your ego in your back pocket for a minute and then go after it and say, what went wrong? Just like in sports, you lose on Wednesday. The great athletes say, what happened on Wednesday where I lost? I'll be back on Thursday morning and I'll fix that. The bad ones say, I did nothing wrong. I'm going to do the same thing again.
Yeah.
So, but it hurts. It hurts when you lose, and it should hurt. And you should take it personally. But that motivates you to get better.
Yeah.
So,
bigger than
how did
what,
my family feel about it? Well, I'm still married, I guess. And it's not easy, but at the end of the day, you've got to be yourself. I'm going back to my 35th reunion for college. There's no one there who's happier than I am. There are people there who've made more money than I have, but there's no one there who's happier. And I feel like I totally control my own destiny.
Yeah.
I mean, I could lose every dime I have, and I'm fine. Because I can create a job, I can create a company, I control my own destiny.
Yeah, it feels good, no?
Yep.
It feels good. And in your book, you said that to have a new venture, the way to start is whether with an idea, technology, or passion, no?
Yes.
But in other books I've read that there's like this mission-driven ventures, which first you have to think about a mission, like imagine Google is organizing the world information and make it accessible, whatever.
Right.
And then find a solution. So what was your process? It was just serendipity? You found an idea just one day? What was your own process as an entrepreneur? So
when I first started, I thought technology would just find a technology, and that will be the most important thing. And then I realized that I saw all these great technology fails, and the single most overrated thing in a startup is the idea, is the technology. It's about building a team that's passionate about it, moving in the same direction, and executing a process in a skilled manner. So what changed for me as I went about it, as I wanted to have technology in it, but I knew we had to solve a real world problem, and I knew I had to do it with people who I could trust. Because when you can trust the person on your left and you can trust the person on your right, and you ought to do the same thing, you can do incredible things.
Yeah.
If you can't trust the person on your right and the person on your left, you're always looking over your shoulder. It doesn't matter what the mission statement says.
So it's not about being an entrepreneur, it's about the entrepreneur teams, no?
Yeah, and I wrote this, interestingly, I wrote this piece for TechCrunch called Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast, which a lot of people advised me not to release. How many of you have read this piece, Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast? It was not like disciplined entrepreneurship. It basically said the most important thing is not the process. It's about getting the right team, and then the process works. And they said, Bill, you really shouldn't release this. It's not consistent with what your message is. And I released it, and it got well over 1 million hits, and it's been one of the most popular pieces that I've released. And I would tell you, you know, if you don't have a team and you can't trust that person on the right and the left, you're not going to get anything done. And that's about culture, and that's about building a team.
Yeah, and what about the dynamics of teams? The first time that I had my friends and we set up a company and we started a company, it seemed to me that after 2 years, the right team was not the prior team.
Yeah.
So you have to change teams every once in a while. No, it's very dynamic. So imagine here, there are many students, many of them are collaborating with a friend to have a new endeavor. But what is going to happen to them? I mean, how can they solve this idea of dynamic teams in which sooner or later one of them is going to be the right one for their position?
Yeah. So we talk a lot about this. There's some research that's being done now. Noam Wasserman at Harvard Business School wrote a book called Founder's Dilemma, which is really serious research on this. Matt Marks at MIT is doing research on this, showing what's the makeup of teams and how do they evolve over time. This is a really, really important thing, and for those of you, I recommend Noam Wasserman's book highly. What we say in our class is, look, you're together, you're a team. The odds of the 4 of you doing a startup and being together here, 5 years from now is basically 0. It's like thinking that you met 4 people and you're all getting married at the same time, and you're going to have this kid that all of you like, and you're going to all get along. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you don't like each other, but you have to get people who have different skill sets, and they have to be able to trust each other and have confidence in each other, and they have to have that glue that when they go through these hard times, that they don't get weaker. They don't even just stay the same, they get stronger. And this is what we talk about, anti-fragile systems. Anti-fragility. Is your team built for anti-fragility? And we had a team that came to MIT last year. All of them were great. Now, there were 5 of them. Should they all be together? No. Does that mean they're not all good people? No, they're all great people. Do they all like each other? I think you all like each other.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, more or less. Except for that one person. But that was a joke, everyone. But that doesn't mean you can still be friends. That doesn't mean you have to get married to each other. And interestingly, I think one of the ones that we look at now, Israel has a real boom in entrepreneurship. And one of the things is they build strong teams. And one of the reasons they build strong teams, we believe, is because they're all in the military together. And they see each other in these very stressful situations. So, like you did with yours and I did with my first company, don't start a company with someone just because they're your friend and you've had drinks together. Yeah. And you have to see how they respond in very difficult situations.
Yeah. Let me ask a question to the floor. And think about your best friend or your 2 best friends here at ITAM. Raise your hand, those of you whose best friends are from the same professional career. So how can we create multidisciplinary environments? No, because sometimes it happens that you're an economist and your friends are economists, and your scope is so narrow. No.
Yeah. So this is what we're learning about now, and you are too. Is people think hackathons are about building companies. Hackathons, that's kind of like a fake. Very few companies come out of hackathons. But what comes out is you meet different people. If you meet one other interesting person, it's a great way to mix it up and kind of do speed dating and see how people act in these difficult situations. So hackathons, being in class, doing competitions with each other. We talk about, are you constantly, like when you do your product, you do V1 of your product, V2, V3, V4, V5, you have a plan. When you have your team, you should have a V1 team, V2 team, V3 team, yeah. And it's going to progress over time. That is perfectly natural and healthy.
Yeah, and so I have 2 more questions, and we go to your Twitter account for questions and answers, and to the floor. One of the things that you mentioned that in your book is that the necessary and sufficient condition to have a new business is to have a paying customer. I have received so many entrepreneurs coming to our fund saying, okay, why do you think that I need to have a paying customer? Think about Instagram. Think about YouTube when it was sold to Google. No, they didn't have any revenue, and they were sold for a huge amount of money. So what are your thoughts about it?
So there's a few thoughts. First of all, you've got WhatsApp, right? And you've got Instagram. You can play that game, try to play it that way, but your odds of success are very low. For every one of them, there's thousands that thought they could do that and they didn't. It's like, I saw on TV the other day, you all like soccer, football. Some guy kicked a goal in from like 30 feet away. Did you see that? Or was it 40? Mm-hmm. Did anybody see that? It was incredible. So why doesn't everybody do that? Why doesn't everybody just kick a goal in from 40 feet away? Well, the answer is because it rarely works. When it works, it looks brilliant, but it doesn't work very often. And so when you're talking about WhatsApp and Instagram, you're talking about data points that are very, very, very unusual. It's like saying, why can't you be looking at your son and saying, why can't you just be like LeBron James? LeBron James is a 1 in a trillion player, right? He was born that way. Those things are so unusual, and we're at a certain place in time, and I wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal about this, about why those companies are there. And you can understand it when you understand the disciplined entrepreneurship. And basically, whether they knew it or not, they got a piece of land that was extremely valuable. And whether they did it methodically or not, you could ask the question. In Pinterest's case, I can assure you they did not. But they got to that place. Yeah. So you can get an asset that people will pay a lot of money for, and we are at a very unique point in time in that you have Microsoft, which has just untold billions of dollars, to prove this. Watch. How many of these people in this room use Bing?
Use what?
Bing. You know Bing? Have you heard of Bing?
The search engine, yeah.
Yeah.
Bing.
You use Bing? Do you use Internet Explorer as well? So, Microsoft spent billions of dollars on Bing.
He was an economist.
Don't be hating on economists. We love economists here. But Microsoft has so much money that they will spend money. They're short on ideas, high on cash. Guess what? Google has tons of money and is looking to buy the next new thing. And for every for every Android they buy, which is a brilliant one, they buy 4 or 5 complete dogs. But they know that they have to keep buying these companies. They buy Oculus. Facebook is the same way. They've got lots of money, as does Apple. And they're all in a battle right now, and they're all flush with cash to buy the next new thing. But if they don't buy you, and you have this business model like you're talking about, you're done. Because if VCs stop funding you, you don't have a sustainable business model. So, you can explain Pinterest and some of these other ones, and again, I would point you to that Wall Street Journal article if you really want to understand kind of the math of it and the details of it. But I would suggest you follow a disciplined approach and not just try to kick a goal in from 40 meters away.
Yeah, one last question, and then we go to the...
have some questions coming in here.
Perfect, and we go to your Twitter account. It's how do you choose the entrepreneurs that if someone go to your office and says to you, I want you to become my mentor, how do you choose your mentees?
So first of all, the first time someone comes in, you say no. And then the second time you say no. And then if they come back a third time, then you consider them. Because they have to be persistent to be able to
resilience.
do it. I probably shouldn't tell you that, because now I'll just get...
a couple of stalkers here.
So, but you have to be persistent. And then what I look for is not their idea. They come in and tell me about their idea. They don't realize I don't really care that much about their idea. I care about their passion. I care about will they follow up. I care whether they listen or not. If they're told something, do they go out and do it? Or do they just tell me why they're right? And those are the people who are not going to succeed. The ones who listen, the ones who are good team players, those are the people who succeed. And those are the ones that people want to mentor.
Perfect. So why don't we go to the questions?
Okay, so Yossi says, we are currently working on a social startup What extra recommendations can you give us for this specific kind of startup? Where are you, Yossi? Are you here? No. So the question is about social startups. So the discipline entrepreneurship, so I probably said this last time, I don't believe in social entrepreneurship. I believe all entrepreneurs are social. What I focus on is, are you a disciplined entrepreneur? Because many of our students do fabulous things, like empowering women in Africa, like helping the bottom of the pyramid in India, like cleaning up Lagos, Nigeria, and creating clean energy, reducing carbon footprint, all that stuff. But what I say is you have to do that in a sustainable way. You can't depend on people's guilt. You can't depend on government handouts. Make yourself so that you create value, so that you get the right to extract value, and that's powerful. But that being said, you have a different bottom line. And so one of my students has written up an adjunct to the 24 steps about sustainability. So for instance, when you say total addressable market in step 3 or 4, I think it's 3, that's 4, is what's a total addressable market? It's so many dollars per year in revenue. So if I'm a social venture, I might want to say, how many people am I impacting as well? So there, you add additional metrics on top of it for social entrepreneurship. And Tristan and this guy who teaches at MIT named Jason Jay are working on that. So it's taking this and applying it in a more social way. So Carla Flores says, I'd like to know if you think that only entrepreneurs can teach entrepreneurship. I get asked this a number of times. You know, for instance, can the Pope teach sex education?
Borgias, do you remember the Borgias?
Yeah.
They were pretty...
Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't have said that. Let's strike that from the record. All right. So look, I hear this, that entrepreneur, and I'm an entrepreneur, you got to understand, I'm an entrepreneur. And they say, only entrepreneurs can teach entrepreneurship. And don't worry about these academics. They don't know what they're talking about. That's not helpful. Because entrepreneurs don't think in a rigorous way. There's a reason why you studied economics, and you have professors who have PhDs. They think about things in a very rigorous way. And is it data, is that causation, or is that correlation? And while they haven't had to ship product necessarily on Friday, they haven't had to meet payroll and miss payroll, they do understand it, and they bring a level of rigor that's not there when just entrepreneurs teach it. On the other hand, if just academics teach it, without it, it tends to lack some of the groundedness of it. So the answer is, should entrepreneurs teach it or not? The answer is you should have both, and that's hybrid teaching, and that's what we need. The same thing happened in medicine, by the way. You had researchers and you had doctors, and the doctors thought the researchers were wacky people who didn't have not in touch with reality. And it turns out that this thing called translational research, where you connected doctors with researchers, produced enormous value. And that's why we need both of them.
And you also require mentors. No, it's
Yes.
not a binary equation between professors, academics, and entrepreneurs. It's a whole world of mentors, entrepreneurs, and professors. No?
Yes. So it takes a lot of, like on an entrepreneurial team, you want a lot of different perspectives. You want a technical perspective, a sales perspective, a management perspective. Likewise, when teaching, you need different perspectives. Here's a great question. Where can you get the book? I think if you Google, you'll find it in bookstores. What was the name of the bookstore? Gandhi?
Gandhi, yeah.
Gandhi? So I think it's available here, but you can find it. And on April 11th, it will be on edX, the Spanish version will be out as well. All right, more questions.
So, one question about your course on edX. It's going to be in parallel to the course that you're teaching at MIT, or it's going to be video on demand?
It's it's on demand. You go in there and you do it when you're ready. So
Whenever we're ready. Okay.
But yeah.
Cool.
So, and by the way, it's not just videotaping our classes. What we do is, when you do online classes, it's not just videotaping a lecture. You take a specific concept, you do that concept, you use examples, and then you have a quiz at the end of it. You do some exercises. So it's a different way to teach it. When is Entrepreneurship 103 going to be available? I don't know, Julian. I've done some big deals. What's your role models? All right, should we ask for other questions here? Why
don't we go to the floor? Raise your hand. Who has a question? Probably you know this guy. Do you want to answer to that guy?
Ah, yes. Look at you.
After taking your class at MIT last year, I now have the fortune to be Heberto's partner at RCPR.
Yeah.
For all the entrepreneurs out there, what would be the 2 or 3 traits that you recommend them to look for in their potential investors?
Thank you, Antonio. Good to see you. You haven't aged a day. You aged a lot when you were at MIT, though.
Older than me, no?
So, look, when you're getting an investor, you got to have someone you can trust and someone who's on the same page with you. No question about it. Don't go for the cheapest money. Don't go for the cheapest money that you can get. You're getting married to someone. That's not what you want. You want someone who you can trust, someone who can add value. Ask them very specifically, what can you add value in? What employees can you help us? What relationships can you find us?
One final question, because we have to go. But what suggestions will you give ITAM to create a stronger culture of entrepreneurship here?
So it's about culture. It's about getting people to believe in it and getting role models, and that doesn't happen overnight. And then and backfilling that, once they have this, yes, I can be an entrepreneur, I want to be an entrepreneur, you're giving programs that let the parents know. One of the biggest things we did in our program is I had parents come in and say, wow, I never realized, now that MIT said it's okay to be an entrepreneur, I'm very happy that Kim is an entrepreneur. So making it socially acceptable is really important, but you have to then backfill it with what the programs what you're doing here with Fernando and the faculty. You need high quality, rigorous entrepreneurship. Don't get caught up in faddish entrepreneurship. So thank you all. It's a pleasure to be back here, and I think you're doing great stuff, and it's really makes me very proud to see it, what you're doing. So keep it up. April 11th, the Spanish version. The book is someplace out there, I don't know where. Okay, Fernando.
Sure, in Mexico we're going to have street vendors just selling your book.
Tenemos el libro aquí afuera. Vamos a aprovechar para adelantar un poco el break, tomarnos un break solo de 10 minutos, por favor, porque ya están aquí nuestros invitados del siguiente panel. Pero si quieren pasar a tomar café y ver el libro allá afuera. Muchísimas gracias, querido Heberto, muchas gracias.